Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Queer and Present Danger. My name is JB. I am one of your hosts. Our other two hosts are still sitting here doing research because that's what they do. I do research, but I also just talk shit and figure out what I'm going to say as I say it, so it's all good. But that's Tyler down there. That's Tig over here. They'll be talking when they're ready. They just put your thumbs up when you guys are ready to talk. Um,
I'm I'm ready. I can jump in. I'm just going to be doing what I usually do in these things, and that's
Yeah,
do
same.
more research while I'm doing it. So we're
okay.
here, everybody. But like everything that's happening so far this year, it's all fucking tumbling at its own random pacing. So we have to try to keep up.
Yeah. I was like, what world are we living in? I actually put that in as a thing, like on our uh, in our description. It was like, these are the things that we're going to talk about today. Also, what world are we living in? Because this is wild. Um, but so, how are you guys doing today? Let's do our mental health check in.
I was in a car accident, but I'm okay. That's basically the summation of my emotions for the day. It was annoying. I was upset. I'm fine now.
My birthday was fantastic, and
Again, happy birthday.
Yeah,
thank you.
So was mine.
The day after it was pretty hellacious,
I got my
but we'll
screen
get to
right.
that.
Yeah. Um. Yes, my birthday was great as well. Because we didn't record on my birthday week. I don't think. No, we didn't. So yeah. Everything is great here. Let's see. Let's talk about some things. So the first thing I want to talk about. Do you guys want to start light or do you want to start heavy?
I we why don't we try to sandwich it?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's make a shit sandwich.
We're gonna make a shit sandwich. I mean, it's
Hmm.
already like, listen, that's what we're eating now. So let's talk. Let's just talk about.
Where's the beef?
We're not there yet, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Let's go. Let's start this off with the Trump administration last week announced that they are basically doing a takeover of the city of Washington D.C. And their law enforcement, even though the crime rate and especially violent crime is down in DC 30%, which by any metric is quite a bit. And
It has been decreasing continuously for the last 3 years as well.
yes, um, and for me, I as a DC native, and as someone, although I don't live there anymore, I still claim DC on my taxes. I don't claim DC on my taxes. I don't want y'all to try to come for me. But I still claim DC as home. I still claim that as like it is something that is very near and dear to my heart. Um, and it's infuriating because I can only imagine being in that city how that feels to essentially be under occupation. Because that's essentially what it is. It is,
Yeah.
you are, I was watching videos yesterday. There were like of them having like checkpoints. And I found it to be very interesting that one of the questions they were asking is, what's your immigration status? Um, which tells me that that's what this is about.
Yeah. It's to grab more people off the streets. Let's be blunt, straightforward with that. It is literally just a expansion on their drive to pull people out with ICE. Like, this is not about safety. This is about grabbing more innocent people out of the streets of DC and finding a way. And here's the best part. When people aren't able to answer, i.e., not just answer, because apparently they're asking this question. I don't know if you two are aware of this. They're asking what hospital were you born in?
Yep.
Why does that matter? Like that has zero evidence for anything, and most people don't don't know that. Like, let's be perfectly honest about it. They don't know which hospital they were in, especially if they moved a lot. It's not a thing that they generally were tracking. Do you have your birth certificate on you? Why the would I carry my birth certificate with me? Idiots. Are you?
For
You want my
real.
papers? That's what it sounds like
It is
now.
papers,
It really
please.
does sound like, do you want my papers?
Yeah, papers, please.
You know, and I think it's
And
interesting because, like, I
Well,
do know what hospital I was born in. It is in the DC metro area. It does not exist anymore, and I guarantee you, if you didn't, unless you were around during that time, you would not know that
Mhm.
hospital existed either.
Yeah, and that's the problem is stuff like that pops up. And what if somebody moved to DC and took over a police position or something like that? If you name a hospital and they're not aware of that hospital, same rules apply to them. That's
Yeah,
not a real hospital.
it's like,
I think I think my hospital is still where I was born, but I don't know if it even is by the same name anymore because obviously hospitals also change corporate ownership.
right.
So they can be renamed, and that obviously will change the ability for someone to prove this is the hospital I was born in.
And what are you
Those
gonna do,
type of
Chet?
questions are absolutely insane.
What are you gonna do,
Yeah, well,
Chet?
this is the other part that absolutely annoys the hell out of me. You aren't committing any. So everybody's thing of like you're illegal, you have no rights here. You actually do. Due process is due to all people across the board. It's literally an amendment in the Constitution. You can ask somebody what their country of origin is, or if they're an American citizen. As an American citizen, I actually don't have to tell you. If I'm not an American citizen, hilariously, I do kind of have to tell you. Does that make sense? Have you guys looked into that? The legalities of how this goes down is the reason why they are easily grabbing American citizens.
So if I tell you
Because
to mind your
there's so many
business,
confusing ways to it,
so,
then they're probably gonna grab you.
so I can be like, mind your business. I'm an American citizen.
Yeah.
Mind your
And
business.
and here's the part with that though. You face zero prosecution for not telling them whether you are a citizen or not. If you lie about being an American citizen and you're not one, then it's a misdemeanor. It is not a felony. It is a misdemeanor.
You
so
know,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is the state ID and driver's license in DC a real ID only?
no.
Is everyone required to have a real ID
Well,
because it's
actually,
federal
yes.
land?
Yes, they are required. That they are required to have real ID. And the reason that it's not because it's federal land. It is because they are one of the places that adopted real ID early on. So everyone that has a DC license or a DC ID already has real ID. Because it was one of those things that really only was a problem in red states.
Yeah. Hilariously.
Well,
You know, and so, but here's the thing that I found really interesting about kind of what the narrative is on these, or the narrative that the Trump administration and Republicans are trying to spin, is that, like, you know, because they're talking about like Chicago and New York and Baltimore are next, but like what they aren't talking about is, you know, St. Louis, which is in a red state, or Memphis, which is in a red state, or New Orleans, which is in a red state. All of these are cities that have higher crime rates and higher violent crime rates than DC and Chicago and New
Yeah.
York. But those are states that he won, so therefore they're fine. Which, you know, to me is one of those things that's like, you don't really give a shit about crime. Like, you don't care about crime. Clearly you don't care about crime because you pardoned 1600 January 6th. You know, people like, so clearly you don't care about
Yeah.
crime. Um, that's not what this is about. This is about power, and it's about control, and it's about controlling areas in cities that did not go for you in the election. This is punishment.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, it's absolutely a reprisal. And um, hilariously, the thing that bothers me the most is uh, you're for the people in the National Guard, they're in an unfortunate dynamic because, according to the USMCJ, they are required to do anything that is a lawful order. Okay. Do they understand what the laws are in each of the states?
yep.
However, even if it is a lawful order, or if it is an unlawful order and they execute the unlawful order, that is not an excuse. I was just following orders. That is literally written into the code to state that anybody who is participating in something that is an unlawful order, uh, whether you try to claim that you were just following orders or not, you will face prosecution. That is not an excuse.
Nor should it be.
If it is,
Hold on. Keep going.
okay. But one of the things that is most upsetting about this is federally pulling in the DC police is something that is a very gray area to me because the DC police are supposed to report to the mayor, but the DC police are part of the District of Columbia, which is only really able to do laws and so forth through literal acts of Congress. So if Congress is doing all of that, then they have to get some type of thing to state that they can't do this. I don't know the inner workings of how that affects how they can respond to that. So if like the president says, you're on now going to be deputized as federal officers, and the mayor goes, no, they're not. Where does the actual power in that lie because of the fact that it's the District of Columbia?
Which is why DC has been lobbying for statehood for the last 40 years.
Yeah, we are hilariously the only reason that we have not given statehood to Puerto Rico, DC, and American Samoa is because the Republicans know that it's 3 states that they would most likely lose.
Yep.
That is the reason.
Yep.
And putting 106 people into the Senate with 6 more of them going straight to the Democratic Party, they're never going to do it. They'll happily use all the resources, the populace, and tell them what they can and cannot do, but we're going to get way off topic with that. But all it really boils down to is they're finding the best way to screw over the people.
Yeah. Because
and that's been a Republican thing forever. Like, yeah. Let's be honest.
And I think it's really, in my personal opinion, problematic in the highest order that you have a group of a populace in a city, in a majority minority populace in it that does not have their own representation and rule. They have essentially puppet government because they can enact laws and they can vote on things, and then the federal government can go, you know what? No, we don't like that.
I would love to see somebody in DC begin a movement to basically just convince people everybody get a 1099 job and don't pay taxes. They don't have representation. There's literally no one in Congress that represents them with actual power. Well, they have people in Congress with no voting power.
Yep, because the people their representatives do not have voting power.
They are literally there almost as observers. So it's fascinating to me that we can claim that we have a country that was built on the idea of taxation without representation, and yet the people of DC who live in DC, not the people who live in Arlington, not the people who live over the river in like Martha's Vineyard or some shit. I'm talking the city limits.
Martha's Vineyard isn't in DC, love.
I know, I'm saying that. I'm saying places that are not in DC.
Yeah,
People
Martha's
who
Vineyard
work in
isn't anywhere
DC.
near DC.
I'm just stop. You're making a point that I'm trying to make. Basically, you have to live in the city districts or within the city limits.
Right.
If that's the case, you shouldn't have to pay taxes because you don't have any representation. You can pay taxes to the city of DC, but you should not have to pay federal taxes because there is no representation for you. Therefore, you do not have a say in the government for which you're paying those taxes.
Yeah.
I would love to see somebody in DC really start to try to rally people together to get that to be a thing.
And I was watching CNN. They were talking about this very topic, and one of the things, was that, one of the things that Trump did upon coming into office, when he was slashing budgets and all that, was, getting rid of those.
This wasn't a topic that we we're going to talk about, but I have so many thoughts on that. Factual numbers, by the way.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Can we do that as a segue into the other stuff that's going on? Because I have a great go off with us.
Yeah, but let me finish this point.
Yeah, go.
One of the things that they were talking about was, the crime rate and how to bring crime down, because a lot of the people who are committing crimes right now are young people, and a lot of it is crimes of boredom. Like, let's be real, when we were coming up, we had malls, we had community centers, we had things to do that weren't just hanging out in the streets. Did we hang out in the streets? Yeah, we did, but like, we had other things to do. These kids don't have that. They don't have malls. They don't have places they can hang out and congregate and do stuff. And, and that's when you get into trouble, is when you don't have shit to do. Like, and so one of the things that they were talking about, like, having those programs and all that. And somebody was like, well, those programs don't work. Well, those programs don't work because you don't fund them. Those programs don't work because you are not putting things together, putting things in that are interesting to these kids. Like, if you did programs on, like, I know here in Kansas City, they have a program that teaches kids music production and things like things that they're actually interested in, and the kids show up. They go to the things. But you have to get them involved and get them engaged. And they don't want to get them engaged because this is what they want. Like, in my personal opinion, this is what they want to do. Is just send the police, give them, send them to jail, send them to prison, start that prison pipeline, which then means that they get free labor. It's slavery all over again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, System of a Down had a song about that.
But like, the fact that you're not doing it in these cities and red states that arguably have higher crime rates than the ones that you're talking about, because the cities and blue states are actually putting forward, initiatives and efforts to get kids off the streets and get them engaged in doing things so that they're not out just committing crimes. It's the reason why the crime rate was down 30%.
Yeah. Basically, I consider this like the biggest example, the most epitomized example of white privilege.
Yeah.
Because none of this would have happened if big balls didn't get attacked. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to need to see some receipts on that story. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, who is this supposed victim? And what was her relation?
Because, like, first of all, if your name is Big Balls, I'm punching you in your face anyway. Like, just the name Big Balls means you need to get your face punched in. But
The dude's like 19.
and like, but like and this is the same guy who was fired and then rehired for saying some foul shit on the internet. So I can only imagine what you said to these people. Like, if this situation happened, what did you say to these kids that made them jump on you like that?
I mean, supposedly he was being a Superman to some lady who was getting mugged
And and I bet you, and your
at her
name,
car.
I listen, I'm not condoning violence by any means. But when I was 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and you called me a name, I don't give a shit what I was doing. We was boxing.
Mhm.
Especially a name that someone like Big Balls, who we already know has a documented history of saying foul shit out of his mouth on the internet.
Yep.
Yeah, for all we know, he could have dropped the N word.
Listen, I'm willing to bet real cash dollars. Okay? Cash money records. I'm willing to bet that the N word was dropped at some point, and that is why he got dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And I would consider that verbal assault.
The claim. So my biggest thing with it is the claim after the fact has been noted that it was a carjacking.
Yeah.
I know that that's a thing that's happens in cities, blah blah blah, but for them to actually punch him rather than just threaten it, grab the car and go, guarantee that idiot opened his mouth.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that he deserved to get. Oh, yes, I am. I'm saying he probably did deserve.
Unless he dropped the M bomb. If he dropped the M bomb, he absolutely
He deserved every
what he
bit
got.
of smoke that he got. Like
And
every single
probably
bit of it.
more. They were probably lenient on him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But this also goes back to, and this is just going to be, this might lead us to a wider conversation that we probably don't want to get into. But it also comes back to these are people who probably have been in this neighborhood for generations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who have lived in this neighborhood or lived in the city in the District of Columbia for generations.
Yeah.
And someone else has come in who's not from there, who doesn't understand the client, who doesn't understand the community that they're in. And I'm not saying that this person deserved to be carjacked if that is a thing that happened. But gentrification is real. And one of the things that happens in that, and this is the other side of this story for me, is that, like, what if this is their way of gentrifying the neighborhood? Because if you get rid of all of because there's a reason DC was called Chocolate City for a very long time.
Oh, okay. I follow your train of thought now. Yeah.
You know,
I thought you were talking about like they were carjacking as a form of gentrification.
No.
Like, wait, what?
No.
You're saying that they're using this as an excuse to gentrify DC.
Yes. Even further than it already is.
Which I would agree with that, and that those came in a very coded way came out of Trump's mouth.
Yeah, we're taking our city back,
and we're getting rid of the slums.
Why don't you start with 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move on from this conversation to the one that you wanted to talk about, Tig.
So I got super excited, and the reason I got super excited was, oh God, I can't even remember now because we got focused on big balls. Queer presidential, y'all. We talking about big balls.
Hey, they were saying his
God,
name on Fox
it had to
News and
do.
all of them.
It
So
had to do with money and revenue and such. And you said something, and it triggered the thought, because one of the things that people have been talking about is what's happening with all of these Doge. It was the Doge cuts.
Yep.
That was part of it. So we have data. We have so much data, including the fact that there were only like 50,000 jobs created during May and June, because that's an actual fact. That wasn't manipulated data. This guy was working for Trump. He didn't like this guy. He kicked him out and put some other douche in there to basically tell him. Douche still stands.
No. The other guy, the other one was a woman. Not the one he fired was a woman.
Oh, thank you. I was like, the whole point being, I'm using generalized references. Sorry, but the point being, that person didn't give numbers that he liked. Guess what? The numbers in almost every single thing get updated every single year.
Yep.
Because they get more accurate data. It's projections, and then up to a year later, actual numbers are laid out for that. Firing that person because they got the actual data and could define the numbers better, and it was not as good as Trump said, that's kind of the point, because his tariffs made people freak out and start firing people because it was already costing them more money. So a lot of jobs were lost. Then you take on all of the Doge cuts, and even more people lost their jobs. There was not a large enough increase in the private sector to cover the 60,000 government employees, plus all of the other people who were laid off because of budgetary cuts, because a lot of places are closing numerous businesses. So that's the first piece. The second piece was, everyone was talking about how when these tariffs came in and everything was going to start working, that it was going to earn more money, and we were actually going to start seeing a surplus. So here's the fun news, right? You ready for this? June actually saw a $27 billion surplus. And every single right-wing content creator started making all of this stuff, like doing dumb little dances and saying, like, where were all these people? How do you say anything about there being, a surplus right as the tariffs were kicking in? All right, cool. Let's go through that. So there was a $26 billion increase in government revenue because of tariffs. You idiots pay the tariffs. Let's say that again. You idiots pay the tariffs. The companies don't. The manufacturers in other countries don't. You pay the tariffs. So congratulations, you paid a tax. All you Republicans out there paid a tax.
Well, I mean, I'm going to push back a little bit on that, because I did some reading on that. Essentially, the companies front load the tariffs, and then they can or cannot pass it off to the consumer. But
yes,
Americans are still paying the tariffs.
So yes, they can front load it and make that point, but I don't know of a single company that's going to want to lose their stuff, and most of them will pass that off to the consumer. I don't know of any real business that is going to just take a hit when a tariff comes in. They're just going to increase the cost of whatever the product is. So whether or not they front load it, or whether or not they take a small hit, instead of $1.50 that they're going to make, they're going to only make $1.20. Guess where they're going to make up the 40 cents difference? They're still going to raise your thing 20 cents to make up the difference. They might take a little bit less profit. Or they'll make stuff smaller, like a 12-ounce, like a 12-ounce bottle is now a 10-ounce bottle. But I'm getting sidetracked. So here was the fun things that I found out, because I deep dive and I'm an idiot. So one of the things that popped up was all of those people that were going out claiming, yeah, we got $27 billion surplus. What you going to say about that? All right, couple quick notes. June 1st showed up on a Sunday, which meant everything for that period went into May. That's the reason why May had a $271 million deficit. Which one's bigger, the 26 billion surplus or the 271 billion deficit? It's fine. I'm sure that things will just increase again, and we'll start just seeing surpluses from here on out. Oh, what's this? What is this? Oh, it's this thing.
They'll just use this statistician from the COVID era, and everything will be fine.
Well, I've got something here. It's interesting. There's this website called CBO.gov. For those that are unaware, that's the Congressional Budget Office, nonpartisan analysis for the U.S. Congress. It is a government entity. They have this interesting thing called the monthly budget review. Monthly budget review for July. For all of you people who were thinking that we were going to see this surplus continue to expand and grow. Let's see. The amount. Oh, okay. So revenues increased by $263 billion. That's roughly a 6%. What is this next? Oh, outlays rose by $372 billion, a 7% increase, for a federal budget deficit total since the start of the year. This is from February 1st, by the way. I'm not going to include January because that was not thing. From February, the deficit has increased by $889 billion. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. In 5 months, we have increased our deficit by almost $1 trillion.
Well, yeah, because we're giving $50,000 sign-on bonuses to ICE agents.
Well, we did that, but what about all those Doge cuts? What about all the money that they were going to be saving? So, just as a note for anyone who is unaware of that,
administration
the
fees,
Doge
just
cuts
like a
did
charity.
not save. Yeah, the Doge cuts did not save any money. The tariffs are not saving anyone any money because guess what? We're paying it. We are paying for the tariffs. Basically, we are seeing a large scale decrease and slowdown in the American economy. And it's being slapped with patches here and there because little diaper Don is trying to stick his finger in the dike with whoever the hell he can get to swing numbers whatever way he can. But it is showing every sign of a recession. There are businesses that have 80 some odd retail stores. I forget the name of the business, but there is a business that has reported that they are looking at closing 40 of those in the next year. Even if every one of those only has 5 to 10 employees, that's 400 more jobs and millions of dollars that are not going to be spent in an economy when people aren't able to make any more money. So just wanted to throw that out there of everybody who's talking about Doge and surpluses and all this stuff. All the data says it ain't helping. This has been Professor Tig, unintentionally.
Professor Tig unintentionally
explains.
All right, I'm about to switch video sources here.
Okay. So, now that you've explained that, let's move on to the shenanigans, the foolery, the abject fuckery of what's happening in this administration.
Yeah.
Not really this administration, but just the Republican Party in general. The girls are fighting again. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Laura Loomer are fighting, and
the actual girls are fighting this time.
The actual girls are fighting this time. And I want to just read off. I don't normally go to Laura Loomer's Twitter because I'd rather die.
Oh God.
But I just I have to
subject yourself to that.
because this is a service that I do for
For the
y'all.
people.
I do this for the people. This is something I do for y'all because really these tweets have to be read to be believed. Because they're unhinged. Let's see. Oh God. I'm here. I'm doing this again.
Beware, the algorithm's going to start showing you all the right wing posts.
I mean, I know. I already get them all because that's what happens.
Because they all have check marks, which makes them more legitimate.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh God.
That they pay for.
Yeah.
You know who
If
else
only
pays
I
for
could
them?
pay.
Spam bots.
Yeah. And porn bots.
I'm gonna do this way.
It's amazing. It's amazing that, and whatever it is, an $8 a month thing can make you feel somehow privileged. Like, but I have a check mark. You're an idiot. Like,
Right.
you are an absolute that was bright as shit.
Good Lord.
That looks like the photo. That looks like the photo I sent to JB.
Yeah, it does. That was just blinded by the light. Lit up like a douche in the middle of the night. So here's just one of them.
That's better.
I wish
Filler enough for you.
I wish Rep MTG got on her knees for her Lord and Savior as much as she got on her knees for men who aren't her husband. Just another fake Christian. Can you call yourself a Christian when your mouth is full of another man's I may be Jewish, but at least I'm not a Jezebel. Let's see.
I'm gonna look up. I need to look up MTGs. That way I can have like a back and forth with you.
Like,
I feel like this needs to be read with a Savannah Georgian accent.
Mm-hmm. No, don't give me that.
the other thing,
Classic.
so like, can I just like, I'm actually looking at one of the things I was looking at while you guys were talking was the deposition that Laura Loomer did for her lawsuit against Bill Maher, and let me just tell you, it's a wild ride. She outed Senator Lindsey Graham in the deposition.
Loomer did?
Yep.
All right, first and foremost, we knew Lindsay. It's okay.
Well, as a flagrant homosexual.
Yes.
Does she have receipts?
I can look at.
Ain't nobody want to see that.
Yeah, I don't need to see the receipts for that. Ain't nobody got no receipt for that. Shout out to Got to Be Real. Let's see.
Well, I mean, if she doesn't have receipts, then it's not much of an outing because we already know.
I mean, we already knew that, but like the fact that she said it under oath, and that she's and her thing was other Republic.
Well, yeah, there we go.
Oh, she also went after. Oh no, that's old. Never mind. I thought she.
I've got one from 3 days ago from MTG. Laura
Okay.
Loomer viciously attacks and lies about those of us who are President Trump's most loyal, original MAGA supporters. She has no long-time relationships because she psychotically turns on everyone. Laura Loomer is the most unstable person and worst liability to ever walk in the Oval Office.
Wow, I didn't realize she was so good at reading herself.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know why she's talking about herself, but at least she's talking about others. Projection is a thing.
Okay, so here is just a quick dramatic reading of a portion of her deposition.
Oh God, let's hear it.
Can you explain to me what it means to say? Can you explain to me what it means to say that the Arby's in her pants? Laura Loomer. Well, Arby's, Mr. Kleiman, her lawyer. Objection, relevancy. Answer the question. Answer. Arby's sells roast beef. Right. Can you tell me why are you talking about the Arby's in her pants? Well, it's just an expression. What is that expression trying to convey? It conveys the reason she got a divorce by her own admission. Because she had roast beef in her pants? Yeah. She'd put roast beef in her pants. That's what you're trying to say? Say there?
Good Lord.
Number 2. The lawyer. Can we mark this as exhibit? Whatever we're at. The reporter 31. Mr. Bolger. Please, exhibit 31. Now, mind you, this is unprompted. Exhibit 31. Several of the President Trump staff have told me in confidence that Lindsey Graham is gay. The lawyer. Hold on, Miss Loomer. There's no question. Unprompted.
God. Amazing.
Yeah, the roast beef in the pants is giving Madonna when she was asked about the correlation between MDMA and MDNA, her album. She was like, that's so strange. It's like, was that a coincidence? Is that intentional? That's so strange. I had no idea.
So then Marjorie Taylor Greene's daughter jumps into the fray and says, funny how Laura Loomer screams truth while spinning lies about my mom. Thought liberals own the Perpetual Victim Act. Turns out Laura has mastered a wolf in sheep's clothing. To which Laura Loomer responded, your mom ruined her family. She cheated on your father. She's a skank. Don't get mad at me about speaking the truth about your slut mom.
Amazing.
Like,
damn. On the next episode of The Real Housewives of Washington, D.C.
It's wild. MTG isn't a Christian. How do you call yourself a Christian when you're wearing a cross while getting bent over backwards inside a gym by every man who isn't your husband? She's on her knees, all right, and it's not for praying. She never wants to talk about this. Why not? Wild. This is wild. Like, wild.
That is some fantastic infighting. That is delicious.
Ooh,
yep.
Here's another one. So they hand her a tweet of hers dated July 13th of 2024. I guess you would know. They asked her to read the tweet. Her answer: I guess you would know a thing or two about trashy Montel Williams. Given the fact that you dated and stuck your cock inside Kamala Harris many years ago, I've heard everything in her infested snatch touches dies a miserable, painful death. What's your source for the fact that she had an infested snatch? Her answer, well, snatch can mean many things. The witness said, her again goes, it's a descriptive word to describe Kamala Harris. You mean her vagina? But you meant her vagina, didn't you? She contributed to 4 years of our country almost dying a painful, miserable death. And I think Joe Biden is on his way to having a miserable, painful death. So what you actually said here was, I heard everything in her infested snatch touches also dies a miserable, painful death. You were referring to her vagina, were you not? I think that's speculative. It doesn't say vagina. You said it. Well, I didn't say vagina. I would have said vagina. Well, you're saying you stuck your cock inside Kamala Harris many years ago. Is that what you're talking about? What? Of course you're referring to Kamala Harris. Yeah, I'm talking about Kamala Harris herself. You're talking about her vagina. You're talking about her body. No, I'm just talking about Kamala Harris. Well, a snatch is a vagina. We're never getting monetized.
Never.
Well, a snatch is a vagina, isn't it? That's up for interpretation. What is another possible definition of the word snatch that you have ever heard a human being use on planet Earth? I don't know. It's up for interpretation. You wrote it. What did you mean by what you wrote? I don't know what I meant by it, honestly. I could have just said anything.
Amazing.
I don't know. I just don't know. The fact that this is a person who has the president's ear.
Yeah.
And makes
either of them
personnel decisions. Like that he said she helps him with personnel decisions. Wild. Are you reading the transcript? Because the transcript is a thing.
What do you expect for someone that's got the ear of a pedophile?
Ooh.
Also factual.
Yeah. Well. Speaking of other trash individuals, Kim Davis is back in the news.
Who?
Kim Davis, the 4-time married clerk in Kentucky, who is now asking
would not grant licenses.
Yeah, would not grant licenses, and is now asking the Supreme Court to essentially retake up gay marriage again, which is something we told y'all was going to happen.
Yep.
We told y'all this was going to happen.
One that denied Oberfell.
Yeah. And so, we're going to do a deep dive episode on this in the future. But I have a couple of things that I want to say. Hey, we told y'all. We told you. We said when Roe versus Wade was struck down, we said gay marriage is next. We said it. We told y'all. We told y'all this was going to happen. We said this. And there were people who said it's never going to happen. It's already law of the land. It's precedent, blah, 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 all of these things. So was Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I'm not getting married no time soon because ain't nobody checking for me like that. But at the end of the day, the fact of the matter is there are millions of people in this country who this will be affected by, whose lives will be torn apart by this, and you didn't care. And because this woman has decided to crawl out from underneath the bridge at which she was living and guarding. It is about to affect all LGBT people. And so I have a couple of questions. This is for my Republican people. If one of you is the Republican whisperer, maybe y'all can answer them for me. But my first question: what does my gay hypothetical marriage do to affect your heterosexual one?
Yep.
I'll wait. How does... Go
To
ahead.
them, it is about indoctrination. Because they refuse to believe that it is natural, appropriate, or healthy for homosexual relationships to even exist.
Here's the thing about the term indoctrination when it comes to LGBT people. I personally was raised in a 2-parent household with a loving family that were straight. All of their friends were straight. They were only around straight people. They only watched straight television. I didn't even know what queer people were growing up. It wasn't a thing. I wasn't raised in a large city. And I came out gay as the day is long. For 24 hours, I'm a homosexual. There's not even a minute in between where I'm like, maybe I like some boobies. I mean, I do like boobies, but that's different. Everyone likes boobies. So I don't understand the indoctrinate. What they call indoctrination is empathy, intolerance. And I find it funny that these are people who also say they espouse Christian beliefs. The Bible says this, and this is because the Bible, it's against what, God says it's an abomination. God also said wearing mixed fabrics was abomination and eating shellfish, but I see every single one of y'all at the daggone seafood boil every damn Saturday. So what? What it is you think it's icky. You don't like it. And because you don't like it, it is a problem. Guess what? I don't like it. I don't like y'all either. I don't want to see y'all kissing and making out in the middle of the street. But guess what? You know what I get to do? Turn my head. Because I'm in the minority. I would love to walk down the street holding my partner's hand. I would love to be able to give my partner, a kiss whenever I feel like it. But I can't do that because I'm afraid of how it might be, how it might look, or how it might be affected, or what may happen. And you let this bridge troll, this absolute amoeba of a person, one person, like, she looks like a germ. And I know that ain't got nothing to do, but she looked like what she is on the inside, a germ. And it's ridiculous. It is here's what you're mad about. We're hotter than you. We have more sex than you. We have better sex than you. We love ourselves and our bodies in spite of. we embrace fully and completely who we are as people, because we don't have a choice in this world. We have to. It is survival for us. And that makes you uncomfortable. But damn it, I am tired of living my life in a way that makes other people comfortable. Fuck y'all.
Yep.
Y'all, if anybody else, listen,
Absolutely.
go ahead, jump in. Say what you got to say. I didn't say it all I got to say because I could just sit here and keep cussing. But I know y'all got some words to say. Go ahead, get them out.
Just a second. I am also trying to reduce some of my. I looked over and I'm like, I'm very bright. So
You mean to tell? Okay.
today, I was listening and I don't have much more to add to it because it is one of those things of the only thing that is actually, how to phrase this, the only thing that any of them have any argument that they're trying to make is literally, it makes me feel icky. Why? Why does it make you feel icky? Why does it not fit your Christian values? We have freedom from and of religion in this country. You can practice whatever you want, but you shouldn't be able to impose yours upon me. I don't have a particular religion because I don't really like any of these so-called one true ways. So you
But that's
don't
not
get to
indoctrination,
push
though.
that on us. Well, but yeah, and that's the whole point, is it's all about trying to make everyone feel like this is the way it's supposed to be. But that isn't what this that isn't what this is supposed to be. And whenever you try to actually come up with something legally, if you can find, actually, there is no legal basis for restricting any type of marriage. And that, I fully state this, and will say it with my full chest, there is no legal basis to restrict any type of marriage, and that includes polyamorous marriages. If you want to change my mind, you can try to prove it. There is no legal part to it. The only thing that we all can agree on, well, at least all Democrats, Republicans are trying to change it, is an age limit for an adult. Because they're trying to push the LGBT gay marriage out. But it's okay. They want to be able to marry 14-year-olds. That's not, and YouTube, feel free to try to challenge me on this. There's actual documentation on it. I'm not saying anything slanderous. It's not a problem because they're literally trying to pass laws.
But Professor Tig, what about NAMBLA?
Fuck Nambla.
Fuck Nambla. So here's the big thing. And this is a factual difference between people on the left and people on the right. If I found out anyone's on an Epstein file, if I found out they're a part of NAMBLA, if I found out they apparently had this MAP group up in like Vermont or something, a camp for them. For those that are unaware, do you know what that means?
I don't, and you don't have to tell us because it's just going to piss me off.
I'm not going to explain it because it's basically just adults liking kids. That's all it is.
What did you say?
Don't look it up, girl. You're going to get on the watch list.
You probably will. Yeah, it was an MAP camp in Vermont. I think it's been closed down, but it was basically a group that was like NAMBLA. Our response to that is every one of them goes to prison.
Pack them up.
Every
Pack 'em
one
up.
of
For
them
life.
goes to prison.
Pack them up.
But
For life.
you wouldn't say that about a Democrat. Absolutely.
Pack 'em up.
Absolutely. I'll be the first one to go tackle them to the ground and put them in cuffs. Now, would you do that with your Republican leadership if they're in the Epstein files?
You
part of
absolutely
NAMBLA or
wouldn't.
anything? The answer is no, because some of you have flat out stated he can shoot someone in the street and you wouldn't have a problem with it. The
He even
difference
said that
is
in speech.
all of you people who highly claim to be Christians don't have moral compasses. Sorry, that's a fact.
And you want to talk about situational ethics,
Pack them up.
and yet this is the biggest situation, and you're bending your ethics on it.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like I said it last time, and I'll say it again. If the Epstein files were released, and it was nothing but Democrats on there,
Cool.
pack them
Every one
up.
of them goes-
Pack them up.
Every one of them. You could show me
Clean up
that
the party.
list, the actual list, real quick. The actual list, not whoever they managed to convince Jelaine to actually name. The actual list, the actual documents, all of them, 100% of them. We get to see the files and see the names and see the photos and all the shit to basically be like, that's proof. Fucking get rid of them. If 98% of them were Democrats, fine. Thank God we cleared out this part.
Pack them up like a deck of cards.
I'd be absolutely amazed if that was the case, but that it was 98%, not that there's like 30, 40, 50% of them. I honestly don't care. It'd be great if we could see the files, but
Yeah.
But
You know, for transparent.
we stand on the ethics of if they're on the list, they go to jail. You all believe only Democrats are on there. We are like, cool, they go to jail. We elect new people to actually be legitimately good, ethical people. We can at least stand on that and reshape our party. You idiots want to change the marriage age to 14 in red states. You know what else that does? It removes the ability for people to prosecute against people who sleep with 14-year-olds. What does that say about your ethics? All right,
Well-
I'm good.
Well, back in the day, never. Oof,
No, we
Nope.
ain't going there.
we're not going there.
The first person who does that, I cannot, because we're not allowed to say violence, but I hope they get the
We
same
didn't
service that Big Balls did.
Like I said, pack them up. Pack them up like it's moving day. That's all I got. Is like all of them. I don't care who it is. Get rid of them.
Yep.
Like it's just that simple.
Celebrities, diplomats, politicians,
Royalty.
you name it. Royalty. You name it. They set foot in this country, they go to jail.
Pack them up.
That's it.
Get them up out of here.
Yeah, come on, QAnon.
We all believe that.
That's
Yeah.
what you were trying to tell
was-
us for the past decade.
That was one of your big things,
Put your
you
fucking
guys.
money
Where
where
are
your
you
mouth
at? Where are you all at?
But it's
Clean
so
up
clean
the
up everybody.
swamp.
Right. That's what you was going to do.
Drain it.
Clean it up. We are absolutely here for it. Lobbyists, all that other stuff, that'd be great to get rid of too. But if you give me the Epstein list, I'll put the lobbyist on a back burner, and we're gonna fucking deal with that first.
Yeah,
so-
I don't care. Bushes are
We
on
went from Obergerfeld to fucking Epstein list.
pack them up.
Well, oiled machine. All right. God.
All right. Do y'all have anybody y'all want to
Ready
cuss
for
out?
Other big. Oh, we ain't gonna do the redistricting maps. I have legitimately pulled them up.
Oh, go
That was
ahead.
the other thing I was doing. Like,
And go ahead
so,
and
for those that
Well-
have been living under a rock and haven't been paying
Right.
attention to Texas, what was it?
While we're talking about while
go
we're
for it.
talking
If you still got
yeah,
something for it.
while we're talking about children and things that have happened, I could tell you about about all the things that the governor of Oklahoma, I don't even want to call him my governor because I didn't vote for his ass either time, has been up to. He ceremonially signed 7 bills into law on Monday, August 11th, and then signed 6 more bills. Actually, signed 6 more bills the next day. He's calling it the best of 2025, which I have problems with to begin with, but Okay, so one of the things, so the obscenity bill has to do with adult performances which contain obscene material. That's what it's defined. Air quotes. That's what the bill says. Adult performances which contain obscene material. That's House Bill 1217. That was actually signed back in May. But he ceremonially signed it on Monday, because I guess he's drumming for press. What's he going to do? Run for mayor again? Or governor again? Maybe he's trying to get aboard on Trump's cabinet or something. Who fucking knows? Anyway, so he had signed that on May 9th. That's the tip of this iceberg of terribleness. Iceberg of terror. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he also signed Monday Senate Bill 418, which requires the Oklahoma Department of Corrections to designate restrooms, changing areas, and sleeping quarters exclusively for either female or male inmates. It bars the agency from housing men in women's facilities or women in men's facilities without officials creating single occupancy areas. This takes effect November 1st. Apparently, this has actually already been the standard in Oklahoma. They do not in Oklahoma they do not respect or recognize transgender. It goes by what's on your birth certificate. So if you're a trans female, you will be in a prison cell with a bunch of guys, and you won't be singled out either. I mean, you won't have your own cell just because you're transgender. So he passed that bill to basically reinforce that, since other states have actually had compassion for people that are going through transition. And he wanted to make sure that Oklahoma was leading the forefront and not believing in that shit. So he did that. He also signed Senate Bill 658 with a child in his lap. This bill prohibits Oklahoma's government from screening for religious applicants with anti-LGBTQ plus views in adoption proceedings. It also bars the Department of Human Services from requiring current or prospective foster parents to affirm a child's gender identity or sexual orientation if they feel it goes against their religion. He was on record saying, "Man, there's nothing better than seeing a child be brought into a loving home and changing the trajectory of their life. And we want to promote that. And we certainly know that those families that have, quote, very deep faith, we're not going to let the system discriminate against them."
But we'll let them discriminate against the child.
Yeah. We don't apologize for our conservative values, our God-fearing values, it said Monday in the event. And he was proud to celebrate those three bills. The other part to that, after I clear the cacophony of thoughts that are racing through my head right now. The other one he signed basically exempted direct relatives from having to go through a like a home check or whatever to adopt the to adopt children that are direct relatives. So you're telling me you're doing these things for the safety of a child, but you're not going to make sure that that home is one that's actually going to be conducive to the upbringing of the child.
Get
And
her,
that
Jade.
that relative is not just claiming that child so that they can get the tax credits and letting them live in squalor. And before you come after me and say that never happens, you're wrong. It does. In both the foster system and with family members. Just because they're blood doesn't mean that they give a fuck about that child. Especially if they're anti-LGBT and that child is LGBTQ+.
There's a whole book series about that very thing. It's called Harry Potter, and you bitches love it.
And that, yeah, Harry Potter. But yeah, there's also a bill to increase the tax credit. So we're going to further incentivize these wild, radical, right-winging lunatics to adopt perfectly innocent children and indoctrinate them into their bullshit faith. And we're actually going to condone that as a state. We actually think that that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And you don't think those children are going to get physically abused in those homes? Oh, but corporal punishment is an abuse, right?
The Lord said, "Spare the rod and spoil the child."
You know, it's okay to beat someone's knuckles with a ruler to the bleed, or to swat them until they have whelps on their hinds for several days.
You can say ass. We've been saying ass this whole time. We've been cussing this whole damn time.
I know,
Yeah,
but I was
it's
talking about a child. I had to edit
yeah.
myself, you know.
Go ahead, keep cussing them
As
out.
growing up, sorry. As growing up in a small town with a bunch of these psychotic assholes, having my life threatened in high school by someone because I came out of the closet and I wasn't afraid to be myself. I have many emotions about this that range from horror to absolute rage. Because the one thing that I see next, well, actually, we haven't banned conversion therapy. Yeah. We have not banned conversion therapy in the state of Oklahoma. So that's not child abuse. So we're going to get these. So you're going to see these psychotic right-wing lunatics, Bible-thumping lunatics, targeting LGBTQ plus children so that they can convert them. And don't tell me that it's not going to happen.
That's indoctrination.
And you want to point your finger at us and say we're indoctrinating children? No. You think it's perfectly okay to electrocute them. Electrocute them to be straight. To change their thought process through cognitive behavioral therapy. You think that is better than seeing some drag queens in the streets reading books to kids? If you think that's better, then seriously, sit on the largest phallic symbol that you can find and shove it down until it bleeds.
Ooh. First of all,
We actually give a fuck about children and their safety.
Yep.
at first I was like, don't give him a good time, and then you said till it bleeds, and it changed that whole thing.
I want to see anal fissures, damn it!
Don't do that to the. Ooh, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
Oh, whew, that was.
Oof. Yep,
You feel better?
Maybe a little.
Before we get to redistricting, I have one more thing.
Oh, there were a couple other bills, but they're not nearly as impactful as those. One was basically with commercial drivers, they have to speak English.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So in order to have a commercial driver's license, you have to speak English. I don't know how that's going to, if there's going to be like a language test. I mean, I know people that speak English that can't read, so what are they going to do there?
Okay. So we got one. I got one more thing on this before we move over to the redistricting thing.
Okay, go ahead. Give us some brevity.
It's not brevity. I'm about to cut
Levity.
somebody else out too.
Okay. Let's do it.
I don't know what your name is. I don't know what your name is because they didn't publish your name because. But this goes to everything that we just talked about. There was a woman in an 18-year-old girl. I will say 18-year-old girl in Minnesota who was, minding her business, eating her Buffalo Wild Wings, just having a good old time with her, with her friends, and then had to go to the bathroom, and her server followed her into the bathroom and forced her to reveal her breasts to prove that she was a woman. Transphobia affects everyone.
Louder for the ones in the back.
And of course, it was an 18-year-old person of color. Of course it was. I don't know where you get off accosting a woman in the bathroom and forcing her to show you her breasts to prove her gender. You have gone too far. You've gone too far. This is ridiculous. That, in my personal opinion, is SA. That is sexual assault. You have sexually assaulted someone.
By multiple definitions.
And I don't care what you think your justification is. You're not protecting women. You're not. That's not protecting women.
And you're probably a pervert to begin with.
Now, I don't know the gender identity or sexual or sex of this server because it's not in there, because of course it's not, because they like to protect predators in the news. I don't know why. I ain't figured it out, but they like to do it. But
like
it
the
is
Epstein files.
But she should be fired. As a matter of fact, he or she should be fired. Everyone, the management staff in that building should be fired.
Yep.
Like, heads should roll for this. Because at the end of the day, regardless of the fact that this was a person assigned female at birth, this was a woman who went into the woman's restroom. That is a child. That is an 18-year-old kid. She might be legally an adult, but what's the difference between a 17-year-old and an 18-year-old? What's the difference?
6 months or a day.
It makes no sense to have a baby go through that. That is a harrowing experience. Could you imagine? Put yourselves in her shoes.
Scarred for life. Scarred for life. I would never want to go to a public restroom ever again.
Ever again.
Ever.
Simply because she looks the way that she looks. Transphobia affects everyone. All across the board. And for those people who are like you're not protecting women. Stop lying to yourselves. Stop lying to me. You're not. It's not protecting women. You're not doing it. Because you don't give a fuck about these women. You don't. You don't care. Especially if they're black women. Because if you gave a fuck about them, you would protect them way differently than you think you're doing now. You would make sure that their uncle, who's been touching them since they were 7 years old, goes to jail and it's not a family secret. If you were protecting them, you would make sure that they know what consent is, they know their rights, and they know that they are valued as human beings. If you were protecting them, you wouldn't be out here listening to churches who say things like women, that women don't have value and women don't have rights and women shouldn't have the right to vote. And the only thing the pastor that said women are things that babies, that humans come out of. That is their only thing. That is their only thing in the world, and it doesn't take talent to do that. That's what he said. That's what your defense secretary's pastor said. You don't protect women. You don't give a shit about them. So when you're ready to actually protect women, you will protect all women, regardless of what they were assigned at birth. And when you're ready to have that conversation, then you can come talk to us. But until then, shut the fuck up. Now, Tig, redistricting.
Hi, everybody.
Hi,
For
Professor
those that
Tig.
are unaware, there's a whole lot of redistricting conversation that's going on. The predominant reason for... Okay, so let's... Professor Tig explains what the is redistricting. So, one of the things that occurs every 10 years, 2010, 2020, next going to be 2030, is a census. The census sends out information and packets to everyone in the United States to fill out based upon to gather demographic and social economic information to create a better map of where everybody lives and what everybody's doing in order to sort of help the United States be able to properly help its citizenry. And then, following that, every state is allowed to redistrict their state in order to properly represent everyone in the specific districts, like your congressional districts. The way that works is varies state to state. Every state has different rules, different things that they do in order to pass new maps based upon the information gathered during the census in order to produce what they need to properly represent their areas. Now, like I said, that normally happens for like the most recent one, it happened in 2020 and in 2021. Some of them late as 23. But by and large, that's the amount of time it takes, about a year or two, for everyone to write up, redraw, and negotiate and plan what the new districts will look like. The best way to do that would be with nonpartisan commissions and demographers, people who can look at all the socioeconomic data for their state and break it out to appropriately set district boundaries to provide appropriate representation based on the socioeconomic and diversity that exists within those areas. Yet no one does that because everyone wants to stay in power. And what's really kickstarted this conversation was in 2021, Texas took all of its information, and with its dominating Republican state House majority, they put through a map that was very biased. And that map is something that hilariously people try to reference and try to say, well, Democrats do it too. And in response to them trying to redistrict in the middle of the 10-year cycle, an off census period, which is highly irregular and is usually done, especially in this circumstance, to steal seats from the opposing party. What that does is it prevents people from being appropriately represented based on their demographic information, and removes the ability for them to be like, if they do what they're trying to do in Texas, it will remove what is 5 Democratic seats if they and split them in ways that would make it more likely to favor Republican voters in those areas. I won't say that the Democrats don't also do that. There is actually various data that exist out there that shows this. One of which I have up right now. It is the Princeton Gerrymandering Project, where they give report cards for the redistricting things that occurred after the 2020 census. They also have stuff from the past that they also graded, but it has a lot of very interesting and valuable information. Now, yes, this does come from Princeton, so it's very likely to have some bias, but it is predominantly a statistical method that they use to try to show what's going on. Now, a lot of people try to claim and I'm actually going to start with this one. I hope this shows up. I'm going to try to see if it'll pop up on here. Sharing the screen, and we'll see if it gets put up on there. So Wisconsin, they even gave an F2, but it's not the one I'm looking for. There it is. Yay, it did show up on YouTube. Okay. So what this looks like, and one of the things that Republicans regularly talk about, is the fact that Illinois has this ridiculous district that goes from East St. Louis, climbs all the way up to Springfield, Decatur, and Urbana, to claim this as a Democratic seat. That's gerrymandering. It is. Same with this ridiculous wedge that they cut out over here because they were trying to get more people elected. District 16 is literally surrounded by that. District 15 is almost cut in half. This is a great example of gerrymandering. And I'm using a Democratic state to show that I'm not biased in this. I abhor gerrymandering. I don't care what party it's for. It is something that creates an environment where people are not appropriately represented by the information involved. So here's a great example of what that looks like. Illinois, great example of a terrible thing. I'm going to further that along and go to New Jersey, which does something similar. It takes New Brunswick and actually puts the edge of New Brunswick so that it affects District 14, but it also lets them claim all of this area up here. Same with this. They pick up a couple of townships for a Republican area, but by giving so much area there, they can make more districts for themselves over here. New Jersey has a lot of districts, and they're cut up in ways to essentially create more districts for Democrats. Here's a great example of how they allowed all of this area over here to be claimed by this Republican area, but took what they wanted to make sure that they got what they needed. So I don't have a horse in the gerrymandering race because they're all terrible people when they do stuff like this. Every one of them. Next, Wisconsin, which hilariously gives Republican advantage according to Princeton. And I think it's because the actual state house is built to have more Republican districts. Hence why they grab certain areas, shift around, and do things. And why it's, even though you have Kenosha down here near Waukegan and northern Chicago area, you only really get this thin little line for Milwaukee and Madison. But then all of these other places are claimed by Republicans. So they get more things, including these deep reaches here, this weird arm there. This one isn't terrible, but it still shows gerrymandering to allow one group to get a little more than others. Here's for some of the randoms. Here's Utah. Utah is a fantastic example of gerrymandering. It might be one of the best signs of gerrymandering. Why do you ask? Well, there's a little thing that happens up here. You see that a couple of these areas are grabbed, and they reach over and grab just enough there, here, and there to claim some of the larger cities. But the part that matters the most is this big district over here, District 2 and District 1. Because if you notice, this little dot right there in the middle, that's Salt Lake City, which has quite literally been cut in half to prevent Salt Lake City, which would be a little blue dot in a sea of red. You could have Salt Lake City literally be a blue Democratic seat, because that's where most everyone lives in Utah, and have all three of the others just surround it. That has been shown on multiple different maps, which would allow for proper representation for Salt Lake City while still allowing for 3 Republican areas. No one questions that Utah is predominantly Republican. People question why you had to split the middle of a city in order to maintain your gerrymandered 4th seat. Then we go out here to Oregon, because I'm not just going to let it be one side or the other. And if you look at it, this reaches all the way out here into the eastern half of Oregon.
Ain't nobody over there.
A lot of farm communities. There's a lot of farm communities, so it just ends up there. But they reached down and grabbed Bend, because Bend is kind of a little blue dot in what would otherwise be a massive sea of red over here. Up here in Portland, basically they split off the northern side of Portland up here to grab just enough to make sure that this would stay blue. Oregon did it too. Like I said,
Ain't but 7 people on that red side of daggone Oregon.
I don't disagree with that, but why do they? Can you explain to me why you reached out here to grab Bend? Other than to make this a possibility of it being a Democratic area.
Well, I think the other thing, and because the districts for redistricting does have to have a specific amount of population.
It has to have a specific amount of population, but we're going to get to the way that population is manipulated in order to provide both major parties the best opportunity to get more seats.
Right, no, I get that. Like, I get that. I understand that. But I think what I'm saying is because I agree with you that gerrymandering is terrible and we shouldn't have it. But I think for like places like take Missouri, for example, because that's where we are. You know, the middle of our state is not very highly populated. So, it's the so that those districts are going to be larger districts than what would be in, like, say, your cities, because we have more population.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. That's the reason why I mentioned Salt Lake City, is why did they split Salt Lake City literally in half, other than to prevent proper representation for that?
Oh, I agree with you on
But
that.
there's a, and I'm not denying that these don't exist, that these aren't options, but there's other maps that make a little more sense. The problem is that the it generates the idea that people are trying to grab just enough to make sure that they have something. But there's other maps that exist, as I'm going to show up on my phone. This was a map that someone drew up. Still provides 4 seats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 seats that are predominantly Democrat. But what it does with this, by splitting it into these more logical blocks, is it offers the opportunity for a moderate Republican to run in an area like Salem to try to win that seat. I believe in better representation because of those options. Like, if I go back to Ohio's a fantastic one. Ohio's a fantastic one for gerrymandering. It's been gerrymandered to no end. It's failed so many different things. And here's the part that makes me laugh is you have so many people who say, well, look at these crazy maps that are made up in places that are more Democrat based. Or, like, we'll just go ahead and use Texas. What the actual shit is District 35 that reaches from San Antonio to Austin? Was that done by the Democrats so they could win a seat?
Nope.
No, this was done by Republicans. This crazy design for this was done by a Republican House to unite San Antonio and Austin to prevent them from having the opportunity to have 2 separate seats there. Texas is a gerrymandered mess already, and they're literally talking about, in the new maps, cutting up Houston, cutting up Dallas, instead of these already crazy things, like here's District 33. Which one's Crockett? Do you remember?
I can tell you. I think hers is 30.
Yeah. Like, here's 30. They're talking about removing some of these angles and some of these issues and claiming other areas, redistricting it so that they lose a lot of these seats.
Yes,
like, I think the plan,
30.
I think the plan is to essentially take 1 or 2 from Dallas and 1 or 2 from Houston. And the last one is to lose either 20 or 35. I forget which. But the goal is to basically shift things around to give them a better chance.
Do me a favor. Do you
And
have
all of
Missouri's
these
up?
crazy lines are there. I do not, but that'll take me 2 seconds.
Because one of the things that they're talking about doing in Missouri,
Splitting Kansas City in half.
splitting Kansas City in half. Actually, yeah, splitting Kansas City in half.
Yeah.
And getting which would get rid of Emmanuel Cleaver's seat.
It would remove District 5.
Yep. Which is the district I'm in, and I won't stand for it.
Yeah, no, it is another fantastic example of people screwing with things. But Texas is a great example of chaos incarnate. Florida, another example of how they've forced things into these weird mixes to prevent people from being able to have, like, this pulling down here versus having it be more organized.
Go
St.
up to North
Petersburg
Florida
with
for
this
me.
weird reach. up here where they
Yeah.
boxed everything in these specific ways, including almost splitting Jacksonville.
They did split Jacksonville, which is why Jacksonville is red
Mhm.
now.
Yeah, but this is the way that both parties. I'm like I said, I'm not picking a side. I'm saying gerrymandering is removing the possibility for Americans to elect who they would like to elect because the parties in charge at state level are changing things to maintain power at the national level. And it doesn't end there. How is Louisiana's District 2 even a thing? You go from New Orleans to Baton Rouge.
These look like
They
fucking
get
lakes.
they get one representative for the two most populous, predominantly minority in majority cities, and they've lumped them in a way that prevents them from having two possibly even three. It's actually been discussed by multiple different groups that if Louisiana was appropriately redistricted, it would probably be closer to a 3-2 blue state. But
Yeah, 'cause
God
you got
forbid that be a
Shreveport and
Yep.
and New Orleans.
Yep. And if you
Baton
actually
Rouge, though,
included
that's
those, it would actually do it. Well, it's
Baton
if
Rouge
you
is
look, it's
pretty
actually
red.
hilarious how they did Baton Rouge. From the
Yeah, it looks
from
like
the
a lake.
area of Baton Rouge, it's literally cut into like 3 different pieces. They gave them a piece of it, but not for that. It was to isolate out New Orleans.
It was also the isolate New Orleans.
Yep. It was to isolate out New Orleans, so they cut Baton Rouge into 3 separate districts. Or I'm sorry, 2 separate districts, because technically 2 reaches all the way into 6.
Yep. And that big
That's
racial,
not even the one that I
big
really wanted to get to.
go to it.
Mhm.
Oh, Georgia.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
56 there, 22 there, simply because they cut it up.
Yep. Which one did you
Not
really want to
because
get
that's
to?
actual representation. Well, here's Georgia. I wasn't going to go into Georgia too much, other than how they built it out actually is meant to, again, give Georgia a lean heavier to the right, or to the right. Here's Carolina as it currently exists.
Yep, they're
in
trying to-
2021. They're trying to change it around too. But look at how chaotic this BS is. You got Charleston and Orangeburg, some of the larger stuff there. You got Sumter up here, all claimed by one small section. It looks a lot like Louisiana, if you ask me. This is actually reported as the most, second most, either the most or the second most gerrymandered state. Like,
Wow.
without appropriate representation. This is North Carolina. It might be second if it wasn't for Ohio, I believe. Ohio is completely not representative. But here is the chaos that is North Carolina as well. But here's a fun one that absolutely makes sense. Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Memphis. Red across the
Yep.
board. Could that be because they also cut Nashville in half?
Yep, that's exactly why.
And not just Nashville, which they're actually trying to redistrict again. They're trying to redistrict at the state level as well, because the state level is they're trying to get rid of the 2 very uppity young men in
Yep.
their state house. Yeah, so all I'm getting back to with redistricting is the fact that every state has some level of redistricting. The biggest problem with it isn't that it's a Republican or a Democrat based thing. They all are doing everything in their power to give themselves continuous power.
Yes.
They don't care about you. Neither party cares about you. They care about the ability to hold power. That's what's happening in Texas. That's the reason why California and New York, Illinois, And all these other ones are talking about doing their own redistricting. Because if Texas does what is very much, very blatantly gerrymandering, then the way that the Democrat side is looking at it is like, cool, we can do it too.
Yep.
All that'll mean for Americans is you are not appropriately represented. If anything, I would kill for somebody. Actually, it was already done once. I forget who proposed it, but I would kill for the actual passage of an anti-gerrymandering amendment.
Yeah, they actually tried to.
Not a bill. I want it to be an amendment. The Democrats did try.
That'd be great.
Every Republican voted against it.
They can ban pork barrel spending while they're at it.
That would be great.
Thank you, Professor Tig. And on that note, that was our show.
Yay! Can you show
See,
Oklahoma?
we can be nonpartisan. Yeah. Actually, hilariously, Oklahoma, they didn't give a bad grade to. I don't know why, but they didn't give a bad grade to Oklahoma.
That's because Oklahoma, they know what Oklahoma is.
Let's see. The reason Oklahoma is terrible, in my opinion, is the fact that they split Oklahoma City and they split Tulsa.
Yep.
I did look at this, by the way, and I was like, how did you give them a C? Like, that shows flat out that you cut that in half, Bartlesville a little bit, and Oklahoma.
Because it doesn't matter what. I think part of it is because it wouldn't have mattered what you did, that it still would have been a Republican advantage.
Yeah, I mean, the advantage is there, but if you look at this one in particular, it 61-38, that Oklahoma City most likely would be and Tulsa. If you actually focused in on those, there'd be a much better chance of those being
Blue.
blue. Yeah, it might not be a deep blue, but it would be blue. I think I had one of the person who I've been looking at their maps.
If you look at the
here it is.
first, if you
Here's
look at
the,
the first Trump election,
Here's their map of it. OKC
And-
in the blue dot,
yeah,
but Tulsa is at least pulling a little bit more red.
yeah.
Not sure. So y'all didn't see my porn.
If you look at the polls
You better not be watching porn.
prior to 2020, what was it? 2020. It was 2024. My God. It's not even been a year. If you look at the polls prior to 2024, there was actually a significant blue dot in Tulsa and in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
That
This
is
was an
completely
interesting-
squashed by redistricting.
This was an interesting one in my opinion, but I like it. Current New Mexico map. Their idea for the new one. Just a simple, rather than this weird big bulb in the middle of it, just split it in half and have Albuquerque be it.
All right, guys.
Or one more thing that I wanted to show you two, but everyone else.
All right, guys. That was it. That was our show. Don't forget, we'll be back a week after next for another episode of Queer and Present Danger. We're not going to do the every week thing. I've tried it, and it just doesn't happen. So we're just not going to do it. It's just easier to do it every other week. So we'll see you guys next time. Yeah, I don't have anything else to say. Do y'all have anything else to say?
You guys keep
Right.
keep your heads up. I did have my sign off thing gonna be for anyone that is unaware with the Obergefell stuff. If that is overturned, they will remove protections for you, your family, everything. One of the things that you can do is you can go and on YouTube, there's a content creator called Under the Desk News. And they did an entire long version YouTube video explaining the 9 documents. It's basically 9 legal documents that if you want to maintain all of the coverages, all of the protections that you have as a married person, you have to fill out all of these different forms in order to verify the same level of protections, support, and basically help that you would otherwise get with just your simple marriage license. So with things going where they are, it makes sense to just start filling out that paperwork now, so that even if it isn't overturned, you're good there. But if it is overturned, you've protected yourself against future issues.
So yeah, get on that paperwork,
make sure you
Tig.
check that out. I'm trying to keep my current one. But the idea being that it's the best way to protect yourselves. We all love you guys. For all of my friends who are in the LGBT community who have gotten married, it is terrifying, but there is protections that you can do. We're here to help. I will try to post a link in the comments. I might even do that now so that I'm not getting behind on that. But that way, you guys have something that'll help you feel safer.
I'm
That's all I got.
still giving you the look.
I'm not paying attention. I'm looking at other things.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody. Oh, wait, here's the link. We'll put it in the comment, in the chat, and then we can add it to the comments.
Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Have a good night, everyone.